Everyone, I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome back to the Jaguar Football Podcast. With us today is the head coach of Seckman Football, Dr. Nicholas Bear. Coach, good to see you. Looking at the calendar, we're about to round out the month of June, and before you know it, we're just minutes away from the start of Dead Week.
Yeah, happy to be here, Carl. We had another solid week in the weight room. Just finished up with the older group and the varsity, and sent them out for a 10-day dead week here to enjoy the Fourth of July weekend, as well as come back and be ready and refreshed. Because when they get back, we got 2 weeks in the weight room, and then we're out on the field for football camp. So, looking forward to a nice little break here after 5 weeks of the summer, but then ready to get rolling here when we get back.
Oh, I bet the time seems to fly by so quickly. I remember over the winter, we're talking about just conditioning and everything, and before you know it, they'll be out there on the field in full pads. Lot going on, not only here at Seckman and with the Booster Club, but also the broader state of Missouri and the athletic body that governs high school sports. So real quick, wanted to start off by thanking, number one, the viewers. Our last podcast, Coach, had over 5,000 viewers, and
Wow.
we appreciate each and every one of them, having
Yeah.
an interest in the podcast. So for those that may not be familiar, I thought we could just take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and the program.
Yeah, Coach Nick Bear. This will be my eighth year as head football coach at Seckman High School, and before that, now I was an assistant for 8 years. So I guess I'm going into year 16, which is kind of crazy to really think about. When it honestly it just feels like yesterday. So. Here at Seckman Football, we've last 5-6 years we've experienced a lot of success, some great growth in the Suburban Orange Conference, and we were the 5-time conference champions. And this year it's kind of a new era, as you would say, as we're kind of moving into a new conference and stepping it up in the Suburban pools. And I believe 6 of the 9 opponents on our schedules will be brand new, so a lot of unknowns and a lot of excitement headed into this season that we'll be breaking down here through the next few podcasts.
Can't wait. We always look forward to getting into the regular season, and Coach, a lot of topical information going around as well with the with Misha, kind of
Yeah,
reorganizing the way that private schools will be ranked based on their record.
yeah, Coach or Carl, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
If I were to tell you Mizzou, University of Missouri, and the University of Notre Dame were going to play each other in a football game, which is now with the college football playoff, it's quite possible. Who would you take?
I would go with Notre Dame,
Notre Dame. Okay, yeah, and
but
good. And obviously the argument too can be made for Missouri as well, right?
right.
You can make an argument either way. I think a lot of people, especially if they were to meet in the college football playoff, would consider that to be an even matchup, right, Carl?
Right.
We got an SEC school, very storied, able to recruit the nation, a lot of money behind it. Obviously, you have a storied program in Notre Dame, a lot of money behind it, able to recruit nationally. Now, if we change the variables a little bit here, Carl, I know you said Notre Dame the first time, but I think we both agree it's a balanced game, right?
Sure.
Anybody
Absolutely.
could win. Um, if I were to tell you, okay, now Notre Dame and Mizzou are going to play, but Mizzou is only allowed to recruit guys from Missouri. Okay, Mizzou is only allowed to recruit guys from Missouri, but Notre Dame, hey, they're able to recruit nationally as well as the guys in Missouri.
That's a whole different ball
Now,
game. So
yeah,
you look
now,
at the
now who are you
pool.
taking in this football game, Carl?
Yeah, I'm gonna flip and go with and change it. So yeah, I mean that's a huge advantage if you just have a small pool in your
Hmm.
geography region versus the entire country in the terms of this question.
Yeah, I bet you if we were able to put a poll out there now, we would say, well, Notre Dame, obviously here, clear advantage, clear opportunity to be the victor. Whereas before the tables were kind of even, now we could say, hey, well, Missouri's got this small pool they can only take from Missouri, okay, but Notre Dame able to recruit not only Missouri but nationally to build their football team. Everybody's going to say a lot more people are going to say that Notre Dame has the clear advantage in this football game. And really, quite honestly, that is a almost exact or pretty good parallel when you're really describing public versus private schools when it comes to high school athletics, and the playoff system and how things are being organized and done, and things like that. So I want to kind of back up a few stats. So Carl, and then I'm gonna throw some stuff out at you. You may not know the answer. That's perfectly fine. Just throw it back to me. But
Sure.
do you have any idea how big is the Fox C6 school district?
Well, I obviously with Seckman, I know that the student body is just a little bit under 2,000. I
Yeah, how
think
many
Fox.
square miles in
Oh,
the
square
area do you
miles.
think we could cover?
I think about like our section of Jefferson
Mhm.
County. It's like going to the river to about 141, and then south to about
Yep.
like 21, or not 21, M,
Mhm.
about roughly that boundary. So I'm thinking maybe 30, 40 square miles.
Yeah, so yeah, our district, and once you take M and it really draws it out is 75 square miles. Okay, 75 square miles is the Fox C6 school district, and then let's say we split it in half, between Fox and Seckman. Oh, what is that? 37.5.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, 37.5 square miles, and that's where here at Seckman High School we pull our players from. We have these 37 and a half, 38 square miles that we can pull our players from. Private schools in the state of Missouri are allowed to recruit. I mean, we'll say recruit, but we don't have to say recruit to play football. They recruit them for academics. They're able to recruit and pull students in at a 25-mile radius from their school. Okay, we get 38 square miles. They get, so that's the whole area, all right, which that radius is not very big. They get 25-mile radius from their school. Okay, so if you take a school like CBC or DeSmet and go out in every direction, they can go 25 miles. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot here, Carl. A 25-mile radius is 1,963 square miles.
That's
So think of the private schools in the St. Louis area. Your Chaminade, your DeSmet, your John Burroughs, your MICDS. They are pulling from a pool of 1,963 square miles. Here at Seckman High School, and we live in a densely populated area. We have 38 square miles that we pull our kids from. All right. So when you look at our 38, or we'll even go the whole district, 75 square miles that we are, population roughly about 75,000 people. Right.
mm-hmm.
When you take that 25-mile radius from a St. Louis County area private school, the greater St. Louis area basically covers all of St. Charles, Franklin County, most of Jefferson County, all the way other to the Illinois side of the river. You're talking a population upwards of 1 million, right? 1 to 2 million, 1.5 to 2 million people. All right. 75,000, 1.5 to 2 million people. The pool's a little bit bigger, isn't it? And then you break it down to high school age people. Well, between Seckman and Fox, both running over a little bit over 2,000. We have a pool of about 4,500 students. That pool in the St. Louis area, now you're upwards of 150,000 students that they get to pull from. All right. It's just kind of one of those things where, is it fair? Is it not fair? These are just numbers, right? Now, I'm not sitting here saying, no one should be allowed to play at a private school. No one should do that. Send your kid to school wherever you want to send him. If you can afford a private education, and the varying costs of 15,000 all the way up to 25 and $40,000 to send your kid to high school. Me personally, I'm putting it in the 529, but that's just me for college. You can do that. You have those means. You could send your kid to those schools. But when it comes time to the playoffs, and a school that's pulling from 1,963 square miles of students is expected to compete fairly against schools that are only pulling from, in our case, 38 square miles, right? Some of the largest school district in the state of Missouri, Carl, Putnam County, Okay, that's not a very densely populated area. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's so big.
Right.
It's 500. The largest public school square mileage in the state of Missouri is 500, whereas every private school is able to pull from 1,900 square miles. Um, so yeah, when it comes to playoff time, and I were to tell you, we go back to our parallel of, hey, Notre Dame able to recruit nationally versus Mizzou, who's only able to recruit Mizzou. We're going to give the edge to Notre Dame. Okay, if I tell you, hey, we've got two high schools, one high school is only able to pull from 38 square miles. Another high school, they're able to find kids and recruit kids from 1,963 square miles. Oh, by the way, they can also recruit the kids you have at your school. Is that a fair matchup? Are we talking, is that equitable? When it comes playoff time, in my opinion, it's no. And, hey, I'm trying to get as many people on board, to answer no to that question as well. And hopefully, maybe not this year, but, going down the line, we could see some changes, you know, and make it more balanced and fair for public schools who are clearly operating at a geographic disadvantage.
That's
So yeah, no,
interesting.
just an interesting topic to really think about. I don't think a lot of people think about it either. How great how much different that is. That's 26 times larger
Yeah.
than the area of the Fox C6 school district, which is crazy.
Yeah, coach, you bring up a good point because I didn't think about it like within that 25-mile, you throw a dart at
Hmm.
at the map there in St. Louis and you go out 25 miles, that's your recruiting area.
Yeah.
I also think about like school districts and not so much around here. I don't think we have that, but you think about, well, let's say take for example the Rockwood School District. What if
Right.
they did like one combined, or they took the four schools and combined them to two, and you have this mega school? How do you still compete in Class 6 when you have 4,000 kids, 5,000 kids to fill out a roster on a team?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, if Rockwood made an all-star team, they'd be pretty formidable. They already have
Yeah.
four really good football programs. The same could be said for us. If we combined and made a Foxy six football team, combine the top five starters, we'd be a pretty formidable football team. Not that we both aren't already, but
Right.
that's only going to make us bigger. The pool is bigger.
Yeah.
We got a private school in Jefferson County. Well, every other school is taking their little chunk of Jefferson County, right, that they get. Well, this one school gets to pick from the whole all of Jeffco, right? So it definitely, in my mind, raises a lot of fairness problems. And I know everybody thinks, oh, well, I'm only focused on football. Uh, Football is probably where it honestly is more balanced than any of them. You talk about basketball, girls soccer, all the tennis, and specialty sports like that are dominated by the private schools come playoff time. How fair is all this stuff, and do changes need to be made? Those are questions worth asking, and hopefully we get the right people to ask those questions, and then get the right people that want to make changes. We could see some real change and things for the better.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and we'll have to dig in this a little bit more
Mhm.
on a future podcast, Coach. But you think about, you mentioned the other sports. Like if you have a basketball team, you start five. One impact player can make a
Right.
huge difference on a season, as opposed to, you got, not to diminish the 11 on each side that we have, but
Mhm.
you get one, and that could change the fortune of the whole program in different
Yeah,
sports.
you think about basketball this year. The big bugaboo was with kids from they all of a sudden you got a couple I don't know the exact details, but you end up with three very high level basketball players on a Class 3 basketball team. Competing against very small community teams of homegrown kids. Well, it's not fair. It's not equal. So it certainly raises some questions, and like I said, hopefully we get enough people to ask questions, and then enough people want to make change.
Yeah, good points, Coach. And yeah, we'll definitely dig into this on a future podcast. But wanted to dig into some other information. Of
Yeah.
course, coming up on the podcast today, we're going to talk about Eureka. You had a chance to go out there and compete in a 7-on-7. So we'll talk about what you saw and what exactly is a 7-on-7. Also, our nation's birthday is a big milestone, Coach, coming up on USA 250. And then what's in store for the remainder of July? So I thought we could start off with the 7-on-7. You were over in Eureka earlier
Mhm.
this week. Tell us about what you saw and what is a 7-on-7?
Yeah, 7-on-7. This is our. It's like it's all passing. So there's you basically it's football, but you take out the linemen. So in essence, Carl, it's not football. But it has its benefits if you're looking through the right lens of your football team, right? Is it an opportunity to go out and compete? Yes, of course it is. Is it an opportunity to run your routes, work on some timing, feel the spacing? Of course, and every team. Last couple years we've done a little differently. Last year we partnered with Hillsboro. In the past we had done the Fort Zumwalt East tournament. And it's one of those things where it's no secret. We build our identity around running the football, and last year we expanded that, and this year we want to continue to find the physicality with the balance of putting the ball in the air. So these things are necessary to go out and do and compete. And when you're going out there against Eureka, Lafayette, Summit, and Pacific, you're talking some very high level public schools in our area. So it was great competition, and it was fun to watch the boys finally get an opportunity to compete. Right now, this time of year, the way we build our schedule, there's a few more teams that front load their summer, so they're a little bit ahead of us in their schemes and their speed, and kind of a little less on the back end in July, whereas we kind of are a little bit less in June, and we really backload our July. So we face teams this year; they're a little bit ahead of us in that respect. But I thought it was great the way our boys went out and competed. With the DBs and the linebackers, and we've talked about the extra speed that we're going to be seeing this year. Well, guess what? Lafayette, Summit, Eureka, they're the definition of that speed. And they had a few receivers get on top of us and get behind us, and it's a great opportunity for those DBs to learn. Oh, when coach is harping on my footwork in the second hour of practice and I'm tired, oh, that's why, right? I can't turn my 4.940 all of a sudden into a 4.6 right now. But what I can do is I can close the gap with my footwork. I know this guy's more athletic than me. Well, what can I do? Well, if I let him get on top of me and my feet aren't moving, I may as well lay down on the turf. So I have to make sure my feet are active. I can't, my 6 inch steps, my 6 inch breaks, they have to be there. Because if I'm off a couple degrees, that guy's going to use that tight window, that tight detail to beat me. So we got beat a few times deep on at 7-on-7, but that's expected. I mean, there's nobody in the quarterback's face, so he just gets to go back there and throw post routes. Um, but what it is, it's an opportunity to learn, right, and know what I have to get better at. And what I saw from the defense, we didn't really have receivers running wide open from broken scheme. We had one where we didn't get a good switch call on an out route, and we didn't pick up the tailback out of the backfield on one. But any other than that, there was like no wide open blown coverages. So for this early in June, that was great to see. We have two coverages in now. We can keep building, on those coverages. And then offensively, it was good to see that, obviously Brody's returning as a 3-year starting quarterback. It was good to kind of see that progression and the ball zipping around. We have a new batch of receivers, some young guys who haven't handled the football on Friday nights. I think we're returning um, maybe 20 catches and 4 or 5 touchdowns from Nick Weidler. That's all the receptions we're returning. And quite honestly, I think our leading rusher that's returning, it's either J.J. Jablonski or Connor Bear, and they both had a little bit less than 100 yards. So it's good to see those young guys get out there and compete, work in space, catch the balls, and we haven't had a whole bunch of time to install stuff, so it makes their minds really flow and who's focused on the routes and knowing the concepts. And it was great to watch us work in space and make some competitive catches. I really felt like we competed well and held our own against some high quality programs. So as long as you go to these things with the right expectations, you're going to get out what you want of it. And I really appreciate Eureka, Lafayette, and Pacific and Summit letting us come work with them, because it was definitely more my speed. And we've talked about this before. I can't get my blood pressure raised in June. And if you turn on YouTube, or you turn on some of these 7-on-7 competitions. I mean, you got guys hooting and hollering. They're talking a bunch of smack. You know, the St. Louis Metro Coaches Association threw on a 7-on-7 tournament, and there was a fight. The cops had to be called between Kirkwood and Carpendale. It was like, what are we doing? It's June. I don't, in my mind, I don't think some coaches carry themselves well through June. Obviously we play a very competitive sport, but keeping the perspective and knowing what we're doing, um, you know, I appreciate the environment that we got to work in. I was there to focus on our guys, get our reps. Where can we improve? And move on from there. And we accomplished that, and I'm proud of our boys and proud of our coaches. And now it's time to get to the film, improve on those things, and we're going to be back July 7th after the dead week. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, coach. Those are always fun as a parent to go and watch and
Mm-hmm.
just see what's going on. I likened it to like flag football a little bit on steroids. You got a couple extra people out there, but it's just
Right.
neat to watch and see where just how things are going. Because I mean, again, I'm not an expert, but if I was a quarterback and I saw one-on-one coverage, that's where I'm going. And from what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, everybody's pretty much in single coverage, so you're going to have those type of situations come up. But I'm with you. It's like a great opportunity to maybe practice against someone different.
Right.
For us, it's our first opportunity out there. It just sounds like it was
And
a
to
really
see
good
some
day.
speed, see some different speed that we haven't seen, and so that it was really good for us.
Good. Well, I'm excited about coming up after the dead week and what's in store for us. And speaking of which, the off season continues. We have a little bit of break here, but a couple big events coming up. Obviously, you think about as we round into the beginning of the year, we have the dads and donuts, the blue gold scrimmage, like those. I look at those milestones as, oh boy, here we go. We're getting closer and closer. Anything else going on in the off season that we need to be aware of?
For right now, we had our youth camp last week, right?
Oh yeah.
And over 180 campers came out, and it was a lot of fun, and it was fun to, watch the high school players interact and work with the next group of kids coming up, and it truly for me, it's a true sense of community when we have all of our kids out there working together around the game of football, and having a great time. For me, I'm getting everything ready and prepping it all is kind of it's a stressful couple nights, but it's also a lot of fun. And seeing all the young kids out there, excite building the love and the excitement for the game. It was great, and now hopefully we roll those into our junior Jaguar fall contact registrations. Those are coming up, and we're kind of making finalized rosters for our teams, and all that's starting to take shape. And like I told you, Carl, we got this week off, 2 weeks of weights. I'm passing out equipment that second week, and then we're out on the field. So, it is upon us.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the junior camp. 180 campers. The weather thankfully cooperated. I was
Yes.
a little worried about the second day,
Right.
but so it's just so nice to see him. And we have pictures up on our Facebook page and on the official X page of Segment Football. You could see some of those pictures there. But it just seems like a really good night, good way to build community, and again that pipeline into the program for future players.
Yes, no doubt for sure.
So, along those lines, Coach, here in a couple days, our country celebrates America 250, and obviously, we're very thankful for all this country has given us. I know we have the American flags on our helmet and everything. Just wanted to give you the floor if you wanted to say anything in particular about the big milestone, the 4th of July coming up. Would love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, last week, Carl, did you watch the UFC fights on the White House lawn
I
at all?
did. I caught that, and then a few days later we had
Did you see
the
those?
you know big party.
Yeah, no, it was without, we're not trying to turn this into a political show. We're not here to talk
No,
about the
no, no, no.
reflecting pool or how much the UFC event may have cost the taxpayers or things like that. But we don't talk about all the other things that we're paying with our tax dollars either. So for me, it was a neat event. It was fun to kind of see it, turn it on, and really the pride in our country and the athletes and the things like that. It was an interesting watch. I think Game 6 of the Stanley Cup was on that night, and I'm a big hockey fan. I've played hockey my whole life. My kids play hockey. It's kind of one of those things where like after somebody wins the Stanley Cup, it matters in that moment, but then like I can't remember 6 months later who won the Stanley Cup. Don't ask me who won the Stanley Cup 13 months ago, Carl, because I don't remember.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm always going to kind of remember, the UFC fights on the lawn. So maybe we need to hit up President Trump and try to get a football game out there one day.
I'm thinking that would be pretty cool to see that they have a lot. You think about the National Mall in
Yeah.
between the monuments, that large strip of grass. Who
Yeah, I don't
knows?
know the dimensions. I don't know the
Yeah,
dimensions. Hey, no one would have to worry about getting the grass torn up either. So everybody could really agree on it.
for
So I mean,
sure.
if anything, I think we could all agree.
For sure. But no, a lot to be thankful for. And, again, we're thankful, obviously, for this program. And so if you're heading on the road and want to take this podcast along with you, you can download a copy on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're also on YouTube. And, of course, you find us on our Facebook home. So, Coach, as we get into the final minutes of the podcast here, wanted to give you the floor. We covered a wide range of topics. Time always goes so quickly. Here we are, rounding out the month of June.
Yeah, no, Carl. Hey, fun podcast, fun conversations, and for those that I know we talked about a few minutes ago, but if Mizzou only recruits Missouri, but Notre Dame recruits nationally, is the game fair? Well, if private schools recruit 1,900 square miles and public schools, so I didn't really say this either, but the median public school, so the middle school is about 75 square miles, just like Foxy's 6. So in the state of Missouri. So how fair are things? And let's keep that conversation going. And if you feel opposite, I would love to hear your side of it. No one's saying you can't have private school football, but is it fair to play in the same playoff system? Well, that's a fair question for sure. And then when it comes to Seckman football, it's about time, and I'm excited to really get this group going. The boys are working hard. We got great attitude, a little chip on our shoulder from the way the season ended last year, and I'm excited to kind of carry that attitude and effort to the field.
All right, Coach. I don't think there's anything else to say, but roll Jags and have a wonderful 4th of July holiday. And we will catch you in July.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.